Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 5. With only a week to go before Warren Gatland's official squad announcement, we review our Lions picks and make our last minute changes. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Right, welcome to our 5th episode and our second Lions prediction episode. We're essentially going to go through our lists from a week, 10 days ago, I think in podcast episode 2, where we made our predictions. We're going to go through those lists and we're going to decide if there's anyone that we want to add, if there's anyone that we want to exchange and get rid of, and just sort of see where we stand with 1 week to go until the official announcement on the 19th of April. So we won't hang about, but just as a quick preamble, our previous predictions were based on the 2013 format, which was a 37-man squad, 6 props, 3 hookers, 5 locks, 7 back row, 3 scrum halves, 2 fly halves, 4 centres, 4 wings and 3 fullbacks. Now for this repeat prediction, we're not going to insist on sticking to the 2013 format. I, for one, don't think that he will necessarily stick to it. I think the game has evolved quite a bit in the last 4 years, and that may require him to take some extra players. But we'll talk through who we've chosen and who we want to take, and where we think perhaps more will go than on previous tours. As always, I'm joined by Dan. Dan, hi.
Good morning. Sorry, mate, I nodded off a bit there. It took you about 40 minutes to record that first preamble when you forgot how to speak English. But I'm here now. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Is that all you have to say?
It was, yeah. That's pretty much it. Other than obviously my sort of slightly updated line squad, like you say, it's sort of having looked at it, looking at what the tour is going to entail, I think it'll be a bigger squad. So my change is really about add-on. There might be one that I've dropped, but other than that, it's predominantly add-on because I think they do need a bigger squad, especially up front.
Yeah, mine's very similar. So I think let's just crack straight on. Right, so let's start up front and with the props. Previously, I said Vunipola, McGrath, Healy, Cole, Sinclair and Furlong. I'm adding Joe Marler to that list of props. I think they're going to need a little more strength up front and potentially one other, but who I would go for is as yet undecided. I'm thinking possibly Samson Lee based on how he's been performing and some of what I've been reading, but I'm not sure. But certainly I'm adding Joe Marler to that list.
I went initially Vunipola, Cole, Sinclair, Furlong, McGrath, Marler. I'm actually adding Rob Evans to that. I think we need another prop, definitely. I'm adding Rob Evans based upon Six Nations performance and just as the extra cover.
Cool. Hooker, previously I said Best, Hartley and George, but there was a big call leaving out Ken Owens. I believe you actually went with Ken Owens. I'm chucking him in. I think we're going to need an extra man up front as a prop, but also we're going to need an extra hooker. I just think that there's, it used to be that you'd put a prop on the bench and he could fill the gap, and now, of course, they changed the whole of the front row. So I just feel like you need those extra numbers. So yeah, I'm adding Ken Owens to my hooker list. Best, Hartley, George, Owens.
So in the end, we end up with the same hooker. So I initially went Best, Hartley, Owens. Yeah, I think they'll take a 4th hooker. Bearing in mind, you need, realistically, each match day squad, you need 2 hookers. So that puts a strain on those 3. So I'm adding one more and I'm adding Jamie George. So we end up with the same 4. We just got there in a slightly different routes, I guess.
All right, second row. This is obviously an interesting one. Lots to choose from. I originally went Launchbury, Laws, Itoje, Cruz, Alan Wynne. I'm chucking in Ian Henderson, who I actually probably put above Alan Wynne anyway. And he can also play back row, as we know can Itoje and Laws.
Okay. So, yeah, that's interesting. So I've gone Launchbury Laws, Atoje, Alan Wynne, Johnny Gray initially. And I think I've massively underestimated the value of Cruz. And that's, so I admit I'm completely going back on myself here based upon sort of listening to everyone speak. I've always rated him, but I just thought his injury would rule him out. But I think they'll take Cruz now as well. I'm sticking with those 5. Johnny Gray, I think had earned it the last, he probably didn't do himself favours the last sort of necessarily couple of games of the Six Nations. But I think they'll take him because I think he's good enough to go. Plus, I must admit, I think there must be an element of they might want to add that Scottish contingent. So I'm just going to say Launchbury Laws, Atoje, Alan Wynne, Johnny Gray and George Cruz.
Okay. Obviously, there's been a lot of chat about Alan Wynne's fitness. It seems to have quietened down more recently, so it sounds like he's okay to go. If he doesn't, for any reason, then Johnny Gray's actually my backup. So, we're pretty evenly aligned.
Yeah.
But as you say, getting there from different angles. But okay, so back row. This is a big one for me because I'm actually adding quite a few here. I believe they took six or 7 in 2013. I'm taking 9.
Wow, Jesus, that's a hell of it. How come? What's that based on? Why so much more?
So, to be honest, it's based, as much as anything else, it's based on the fact that I just think it's too tough to call. And there's just too much quality. But we'll go through it and we'll see what you think. So my originals: Billy Vunipola, CJ Stander, Sam Warburton, James Haskell, Talupi Faletau, Sean O'Brien. Now I did have Ross Moriarty. He's off. He's out. He's been crossed off the list. I'm adding Hermione. No, that's Harry Potter. Hermione.
Should be useful.
Yeah, Justin Tipperick. And I'm also throwing in Chris Robshaw because I just think he's been so good for England, and I know he missed the Six Nations, but he's back. He's on form again, and I just think that if Gatland decides to take a few extras, I think he'd be a good extra shout. But he is caveated with a star, so we'll see. But they're my is that 9? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they're my 9. Vunipola, Stander, Warburton, Haskell, Faletau, O'Brien, Omani, Tipperick, and Robshaw.
Okay, so I'd love to see Robshaw go. I really would. I still don't think he will. Obviously, purely based on the injury. I'm adding one more to my back row. So I've got Vunipola, Stander, Warburton, Haskell, Faletau, Tipperick, Omani as my initial 7. I'm adding O'Brien based upon performances of the last few weeks versus Ireland versus England, Leinster versus Wasps. I just think he's been really strong. So I'm adding O'Brien to that mix. Potentially it could be a like for like against Haskell. And I know both those matches, they came up against each other. And I think the thinking is that actually O'Brien got the better of Haskell in both of those. But I think Haskell will go. I think he'll add so much value to the tour. So rather than do a replacement, I'm just going to add Sean O'Brien on top of my initial 7.
Fair enough. Okay, so that's the forwards. Scrum half. One change for me. Danny Kerr out. Ben Youngs in. Otherwise, Conor Murray, Rhys Webb as the first 2 on that list. It's a difficult one. I'm kind of calling this based on what I think he'll do rather than what I'd like to see. I'd like Danny Kerr to go because I think he offers more off the bench, but I just think that Ben Youngs has just that little bit more experience and is just a little bit more tried and tested. And I think that from Warren Gatland's point of view, that will be the call. But I think it'll be between those 2. And yeah, I'm just edging Ben Youngs now.
I'm actually going to stick with, because I was the same as you, I had Murray, Webb, Kerr. I'm actually going to stick with Kerr. I still think Kerr adds that sort of finisher element slightly better than Youngs does. And I still think Murray and Webb are probably the favourite 2. So I'm going to stick Murray, Webb, Kerr.
Okay. Fly half, no changes. Johnny Sexton, George Ford. There was obviously a debate when we first were discussing our selection, and I think it was we both agreed it was sort of between Ford and Dan Biggar. We both gave it to Ford on form, but I think on top of that, there's obviously the injury concerns for Dan Biggar, which kind of rule him out Possibly, it's not official yet, but head injuries are obviously taken pretty seriously these days. So he may well be a doubt anyway, which just makes it easier to kind of nail on Sexton and Ford as my two fly halves.
Yeah, I was saying Sexton, Ford. If they did take a third fly half, which I don't think they will because you've got Farrell anyway. I know Hogg stepped in at fly half on a previous line tour. If they did take a third with that injury and things, I think they'd go Finn Russell anyway, but I don't think they will. So I'm sticking Sexton, Ford as well.
Right, centres. Originally, Owen Farrell nailed on with Jonathan Joseph, Jonathan Davies and Robbie Henshaw. For me, I'm chucking in Big Ben Teo. It was a sort of a tight call between him and Ringrose, and I just think Ringrose perhaps it's a bit too early for him. Ben Teo is another one that I've caveated with a bit of a star because I'm not sure if it'll happen or not, but I'm putting him in there because I just think he offers something a bit different to the rest of the guys on that centre list.
I've done the same, but same as you, just got there in a slightly different way. Whereas I had Teo initially instead of Henshaw, I'm adding Henshaw on top of that list. I think there's room for another one. I think there's room for Teo. So
great. So we're pretty well aligned at the moment.
I think we've got there slightly differently, but the teams are sounding pretty similar. Yeah.
Okay. Well, a few more to go. So on the wing. One more addition here for me. So originally Watson, North, Daly, and Knoll, and I'm going again another one that's caveated with the star, a bit of a wild card in Chris Ashton.
Yeah, I'm doing the same, but I'm actually swapping Ashton and Knoll, Jack Knoll even. I don't think they need more than 4 wingers because I think people can fill in. Ashton's statistics are just so strong. I think you're almost missing a trick if you don't take him. So I'm going to go Anthony Watson, George North, Elliot Daly, Chris Ashton.
Okay. One of the reasons why I haven't switched out anybody on the wing is because I've actually got rid of Rob Kearney from fullback, and I'm just going to take 2 fullbacks in Stuart Hogg and Liam Williams. Liam Williams obviously being a bit of a sort of another one of those that can play on the wing or at fullback. So 7 in total, but just an extra one on the wing and taking Rob Kearney out at fullback.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my initial fullbacks. Rob Kearney out, I assume, based on injury.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't initially involve him. But I'm going to stick with Hogg and Williams as fullback, and I think Halfpenny might go. I'm not sure he's earned his Lions place this year, but historically he's been strong enough. I just think with the Gatland factor that Lee Halfpenny might go, so I'm going to stick Hogg, Halfpenny and Williams as my 3 fullbacks.
So you think Halfpenny? What is Halfpenny offering the Lions on your list? Because you're essentially got Halfpenny for Jack Knoll.
So I think Halfpenny is not looking for a test place. I think he offers a midweek experience, a midweek kicker. So if you look at a midweek team. And I know this is a really negative way to look at it, but if I was looking at a midweek back team, say, for example, you've got Kerr, Ford, and then you've got, for argument's sake, Teo and Jonathan Davies, and then on the wings you've got, I don't know, let's say Watson and Ashton, you've got no kicker. So other than George Ford, who's not great. So I think there, Halfpenny could come in and maybe add that kicking.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
That's kind of my thinking behind that.
Fair enough. So so a few changes there from both sides. I think I've ended up with 22 England players, 11 Irish, 9 Welsh, and a Scot. So yeah, pretty England heavy. But they are our predictions with 1 week to go. No doubt we'll get it completely wrong. But I've got faith in what I've gone for. I just need Warren Gatland to listen to this and go, oh yeah, 44-man squad. That makes far more sense than a 37-man squad. And then I reckon I've pretty much nailed it.
Well, yeah, it could be close. I genuinely don't know how Gatland will go. I don't know if he'll keep it sort of a smaller party or whether he will extend. I think up front you probably do need to have a few more, otherwise you're putting so much pressure on the sort of front row, especially because of the amount of subs, you know, and even if you're a non-playing sub, you still the sort of mental effort it takes to sort of prepare yourself for a match. I think you just need that cover so you can give for breaks. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it'll definitely be a bigger squad than it was to Australia. But whether it'll be as many as we've said, well, I guess we'll find out in a week's time.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking is just that there's a lot of talk about taking a 37-man squad, and then you have people on reserve, take a holiday in the area and kind of be available to be called up if there are injuries. And, everyone says there will be injuries, so there will be people called up. And I just think if you're going to call people up and you're almost assured that it's going to happen at some point, surely it makes more sense to, one, give those guys the opportunity to be part of the whole tour, not just the bit that remains once you've called them up, but also ensure that they're training with the guys. This is a team that's put together of players that don't regularly play together. So why not have those guys involved right from the start? Have a bigger squad. That's not a major issue, and it means that when those injuries do occur, you've got those people that already know what the game plans are. They already know their teammates better, and at the end of the day, they get that full Lions experience rather than getting that sort of semi-Lions experience because they're only called up for the last week or the last 10 days or the last fortnight or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer that approach. I prefer them to go for a slightly bigger squad, and then if there is an injury, then decide maybe we can swallow that rather than go with a bare bones squad and just constantly being like, right, injury, we need to fly someone out for the reasons you say. So, and especially in New Zealand, I mean, you get no tougher place to play rugby. So,
well, exactly.
It's doing that, and Gatland obviously knows that. It will be interesting. This is a squad, but I've really gone back and forth on what he's going to do, who he's going to take, how many he's going to take. So I'm genuinely intrigued. Like I really am interested to see what the squad will look like, not just from a Lions perspective, but obviously it will have implications on the England touring side to Argentina as well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, especially when 22 guys I've got down on this list. If that ends up being half that number, that's a considerably larger number of England players available to go to Argentina. But likewise, if I'm correct, as we both suspect I probably am.
We both suspect that, do we?
Yeah, well, that's what I've decided. Yeah, okay. But if I am, then that's a massive number of guys that aren't available. So Eddie Jones is going to have his work cut out for him putting together it'll be very interesting, but yeah, putting together a squad to go and face Argentina in order to not maintain a winning run, because that's obviously been stopped, but certainly to start a new one.
Bloody Irish. Yeah, no. I mean, Eddie Jones. There's no way Eddie Jones is going to Argentina not to win.
No, of course not.
He's taking as strong a squad as he can, and yeah, like we say, this Lions squad will have huge implications on that.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see what happens, and of course, that all begins with the official Lions squad announcement on the 19th of April, which is a week today. We will be back then to discuss what Warren Gatland has chosen and compare it to what we have predicted, and we will follow that up on the 20th with a discussion regarding the announcement of the England squad to tour Argentina. So we hope you will join us for both of those. That's it for today, I think. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.
Yeah, guys, thanks very much. Please check out sort of everything we've said on englandrugbypod.com, which will obviously outline our previous podcast, what we've said today and what we've got coming up.